Chosen One, lock your eyes on this message right now. That strange sensation you have been feeling, the one that makes you stop mid-sentence and wonder if something is shifting behind your vision. I need you to understand what that is. The enemy has been working overtime this week for one reason and one reason only. He knows what your eyes are about to see. It all changes now. The blur, the sensitivity, the way certain things look different than they used to. But listen carefully, because this is the part most people miss. It is not changing because something is wrong with you. It is changing because something is finally right. Think back to that moment this week when you caught your reflection and felt like you were looking at someone slightly unfamiliar. Someone older, or calmer, or more dangerous than you remembered. You did not know it then, but that was not a trick of the light. That was a confirmation. You did not stumble onto this message. You did not click here by accident. The algorithm did not find you. Something far older than any algorithm placed this directly in front of your eyes, because your eyes are the subject of what I am about to say. In the next few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what happens to the physical and spiritual vision of a chosen one during final awakening. I am going to name the specific changes you have been noticing and tell you what each one means. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals what your eyes have just been opened to see. Do not click away. Your future self is begging you to stay. Because if you leave now, you leave before you understand what is being written in you. And that misunderstanding is the one thing the enemy needs to keep you confused. My name is Ezekiel. I have spent years studying the hidden patterns of the spirit realm, the warfare, the awakening, the weapons most people are never taught to use. And I have walked over 10,000 chosen ones through their moment of breakthrough. If this is your first time here, subscribe and hit the notification bell right now. Not because I need the numbers, but because the next message I release might be the one that was written specifically for the war you are fighting tomorrow. Now let me tell you what the last 72 hours have actually been. The atmosphere around you has not been normal. It has not just been quiet. It has been charged, like something in the air is holding its breath. Maybe you have been experiencing a strange sensitivity to light. This week, finding yourself squinting at things that never used to bother you, or noticing that bright spaces feel almost too bright. Or maybe it has been the opposite. Maybe you have been drawn to darkness, to stillness, to sitting in dim rooms without quite knowing why. Some of you have been waking up at 3 a.m, and the first thing you notice is how sharp everything looks in the dark, more vivid than it should be, more real than the daylight hours feel. You feel like something is being adjusted inside you that you cannot name and cannot stop. And in that disorientation, the enemy has introduced a very specific lie. He is whispering to you that these changes are symptoms of breakdown, that the sensitivity, the strangeness, the unfamiliar face in the mirror, these are signs that you are losing your grip. He is pointing to that moment this week when you stared too long at something ordinary and felt a wave of emotion you could not explain. And he is telling you that is evidence of instability. He is telling you that people going through final awakening do not feel this confused, this fragile, this uncertain about what they are seeing. He is telling you that real chosen ones see with clarity, not with this unsettling blur between what was and what is coming. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Acts 9, verse 8 and 9 describe the moment Saul of Tarsus was struck from his horse on the road to Damascus. It says that when he opened his eyes, he could see nothing. He was blind for 3 days. No food, no water, just darkness. And when his sight returned, it says that something like scales fell from his eyes. Listen to that. Scales fell from his eyes. The blindness was not punishment. The blindness was preparation. The darkness was not the enemy winning. The darkness was the old vision being dismantled so the new vision could take its place without contamination from what came before. You are not losing your sight. You are losing your old sight. There is a significant difference. The heaviness you feel behind your eyes is not the pressure of something breaking. It is the pressure of something expanding beyond the container it was born in. What you are experiencing is not a malfunction. It is a metamorphosis. You think the confusion in your vision is weakness. You think waking up in the dark and seeing more clearly than you do in daylight is strange. You think that emotional wave you felt when you looked at something ordinary was instability. Let me reframe your reality right now. That was not confusion. That was calibration. Your eyes are being reset to see at a frequency the enemy cannot manipulate and the world cannot explain. The scales are falling. The old lens is being removed. And what comes next is not more confusion. What comes next is sight so clear it will terrify the darkness that has been hiding in plain view around you. You are not at the beginning of your awakening. You are at the end of your blindness. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's mantle. This sacred guide reveals the 12 divine codes behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. The codes that turn the life heaven already wrote over you into the life you actually walk. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let me take you deeper into what is actually happening, because the scales falling from your eyes is only the beginning of what I need you to understand. What comes after the scales, that is where most chosen ones lose the thread. They feel the shift, they recognize something is moving, and then they make the single most dangerous mistake available to them in this moment. They go looking for confirmation from people who are still wearing the old lenses. They turn to someone in their inner circle, a friend, a family member, a spiritual leader they trust, and they describe what they are feeling, and that person looks back at them with concern instead of recognition. And in that moment, the enemy uses someone who genuinely loves them to talk them out of their own awakening. This is not new. This is ancient. When Jesus asked his disciples who people were saying he was, they gave him a list of other people's perceptions. But when he pressed deeper and asked who they themselves believed he was, only Peter answered. And even Peter, the one who got it right, later denied that he ever knew him at all. The people closest to you are not always equipped to see what heaven is doing in you. That is not a condemnation of them. That is a warning for you. Do not hand the most sacred season of your life to someone whose vision has not been updated for this version of who you are becoming. And this leads into something most people miss entirely, something that sits quietly underneath the surface of everything you have been experiencing. You have not just been noticing changes in how you see the world. You have been noticing changes in what you are no longer willing to see. There are rooms you used to walk into and feel nothing. Now you walk in, and something in you pulls back before you can even name why. There are conversations you used to sit through without discomfort. Now the words land differently, like you can hear something beneath what is being said, something the speaker themselves may not even be aware of. There are people you used to feel neutral about, who now carry a weight in your presence that they did not carry before. This is not anxiety. This is discernment entering its next dimension. The prophet Elisha had a servant who looked out at the army surrounding them and saw only the threat: horses, chariots, soldiers, and overwhelming force closing in on every side. He was terrified. He asked Elisha, "What do we do?" And Elisha did not look at the army. He looked up, and he prayed one prayer: "Lord, open his eyes." That was it. No long intercession, no elaborate ritual, just that. And when the servant looked again, the hills were filled with horses and chariots of fire. The protection had been there the entire time. What changed was not the situation. What changed was the capacity of the servant's eyes to register what was already present. You are living in that in-between moment right now. You are the servant between the first look and the second. You have seen the threat. You have felt the pressure. You have stared at the wall of what is coming against you and wondered how any of it gets overcome. But I am telling you, you have not yet seen what is surrounding you. And coming up, I am going to show you exactly what your newly calibrated eyes are being trained to detect, because it is not what you expect, and the moment it lands, it is going to reframe every difficult thing that has happened to you in the last 2 years. But first, this has to settle in you before we go further. Your sensitivity is not a liability. I need you to hear that again, because the world has been telling you the opposite your entire life. Every time you felt something others did not feel, Every time you picked up on an energy in a room before anyone spoke a word, every time you wept at something others walked past without a second glance, you were told, in one way or another, that you were too much, too emotional, too intense, too deep, too serious. You absorbed those words, and somewhere along the way you started trying to be less. Less feeling, less perceiving, less aware. You started managing yourself for the comfort of people who were operating at a fraction of your spiritual frequency. And here is the truth that cuts through all of that. You were not too much. You were too advanced for the container you were placed in. Eagles do not belong in chicken coops. Not because chickens are bad, but because the eagle's wingspan was never designed to fit inside those walls. The sensitivity you were taught to suppress is the very instrument God designed to navigate the territory you are being called into. It is not a malfunction from your past. It is the equipment for your future. But here is where it goes deeper. And this is the part I need you to stay with me for. Because most people hear the encouragement and stop right there. They take the affirmation and walk away feeling better. But they never receive the confrontation that actually produces change. And without the confrontation, the encouragement becomes just another thing that felt good, but did not move anything. The reason you have been suppressing your sensitivity is not only because others told you to. It is because somewhere deep in the architecture of your soul, you made an agreement. You decided, maybe not in those words, maybe not consciously, but you decided that your perception was dangerous. That if you saw too clearly, you would have to respond to what you saw. That if your eyes were fully open, you could no longer claim ignorance. And claiming ignorance, as painful as it was, gave you something you needed. It gave you permission not to move. This is the hidden thing. This is the root beneath the root. It is not the enemy keeping your eyes dim. It is not even the people who told you that you were too much. It is the part of you that chose the comfort of managed blindness over the cost of full sight. Because full sight requires full accountability. And full accountability requires that you stop waiting for conditions to be perfect before you begin walking in what you already know. Think of Moses. When God spoke to him from the burning bush, Moses did not say, "I cannot see the fire." He saw it perfectly. He turned aside specifically because he saw it. The scripture says he turned aside to look. But then when God began to speak the assignment, "Go, lead, return to the place you fled," Moses immediately found 5 reasons why his eyes must have deceived him. Why this could not be for him. Why someone else would be more suitable. He did not lose his vision. He argued against what his vision showed him, because the weight of what he saw would demand everything of him. You have been doing the same thing. You have seen the assignment. You have felt the calling stir in your chest at 3 a.m, when everything was quiet enough for you to hear it. You have had moments of absolute clarity where you knew, not hoped, not wished, but knew what you were created to do. And then the sun came up and the noise of ordinary life rushed back in, and you found your 5 reasons. You found the limitations, the lack of resources, the unhealed wounds, the people who would doubt you, the history that disqualified you. You took the vision and buried it under the weight of your arguments against yourself. And coming up, what I am about to show you next is the mechanism the enemy uses to make those arguments feel like wisdom. Because this is where the trap becomes almost invisible. And staying with me right now may be the single most important decision you make today. The voice that sounds like caution is not always the voice of wisdom. There is a sound in your head that you have been calling discernment that is actually fear, that learned to speak in the language of discernment. It knows your vocabulary. It knows your theology. It knows how to reference your past wounds and frame them as evidence that moving forward is reckless. It says things like, "Be careful. Remember what happened last time. Are you sure? Maybe wait. Maybe not yet. Maybe someone else." And because it sounds measured, because it sounds mature and grounded and responsible, you have been listening to it as though it were counsel from heaven. But wisdom does not keep you stationary in the presence of divine appointment. Wisdom moves. Wisdom acts with full knowledge of the cost. Fear rehearses the cost until the cost feels larger than the calling. Nehemiah looked at a broken wall. in a city under the authority of people who had every reason to want him to stay broken. And he did not call a committee. He did not wait for unanimous agreement. He did not let the Sanballat and the Tobias, the voices of strategic discouragement, convince him that their opposition was a sign that he had misread God. He built. In the face of mockery, in the face of threat, in the face of every logical reason to stop, he built. And the wall went up in 52 days. Not because conditions were perfect, because the vision was clear and the obedience was uncompromised. Your wall is waiting for you to stop asking permission to build it. Now here is where we enter the part of this message that is not comfortable. And I need you to stay open, because what I am about to say is not meant to wound you. It is meant to free you. The people you have been waiting to validate your vision, they are not coming. Not in the way you need them to. Not in the timing your soul has been holding its breath for. And the waiting has not been passive. The waiting has been slowly teaching you to need external confirmation more than you trust internal revelation. Every month you have waited for someone to see what God showed you. You have been quietly, almost imperceptibly, training yourself to distrust your own eyes. And this is the wound beneath the wound. This is the agreement beneath the agreement. You have outsourced your authority to people who were never given the blueprint. Habakkuk was told to write the vision and make it plain. Not write it and present it for a vote. Not write it and wait for the panel to approve it. Write it. Make it plain. And then the instruction was to wait for it, because it will surely come. The waiting Habakkuk was called to was not passive uncertainty. It was active, expectant, settled confidence in what had already been revealed. He was not waiting to find out if the vision was real. He was waiting for the vision to arrive in time. There is a fundamental difference between those two kinds of waiting, and most people are practicing the wrong one. You have been waiting to find out if what you saw was real. Heaven is asking you to start waiting for what you already know is real, to manifest in time. And here is the part you did not expect. Here is the thing I have been building towards since the moment this message began. And I want you to receive it with your whole spirit, because this is the confrontation that breaks the final layer open. The thing that has been delaying you is not the enemy. The enemy is real. His opposition is real. The warfare has been real. I am not minimizing any of that. But the enemy cannot stop a chosen one who has fully consented to their calling. He can only delay, distort, and discourage. The delay you have been living in has been sustained not by his power, but by your partial yes. You gave God most of you. You gave God the part of you that was comfortable, the part that fit inside the version of calling that still left room for the escape routes. But there is a part of you, a specific, identifiable part, that you have been withholding. Not from rebellion, from fear of what a full yes will cost you in terms of who you will have to leave behind, what version of yourself you will have to let die, and how alone the next level of your calling may initially feel. The full yes is the key. Not more prayer, not more preparation, not more waiting for the right moment or the right resources or the right community. The full yes, the unconditional, unreserved, I will go wherever this takes me, and I will release whatever this requires. That is the thing that transforms a partial awakening into a completed one. That is what turns the scales falling from your eyes into eyes that see with permanent, weaponized clarity. Elijah ran from Jezebel after calling down fire from heaven. He sat under a juniper tree and asked God to let him die. This was not a man who lacked power. This was a man whose full yes had momentarily collapsed under the weight of isolation and threat. And God did not rebuke him. God let him sleep, fed him, touched him, and then asked him a question that was not really a question. What are you doing here, Elijah? Not accusation, invitation. Because the moment Elijah answered honestly, the moment he named the fear and the exhaustion and the sense that he was the only one left, God gave him the next assignment. Got up. Go back. There is more to do. And I have kept 7,000 who have not bowed. You are not the only one. You have never been the only one. But you will not find the 7,000 until you get up from under your juniper tree and go back to the road the assignment is waiting on. Tonight, before you sleep, place your hand on your chest and feel the weight of everything you have been carrying, and then speak this declaration over your life. I release the partial yes that has been masquerading as wisdom. I release the waiting that has been trained by fear and called it patience. I release every agreement I made with the voice that told me I was too much, too sensitive, too broken, too late. I release the need for external validation of what heaven has already confirmed. I declare that my eyes are open, not to what was, not to what the enemy wants me to see, but to what God is doing right now, in this moment, in this season, in this body, in this calling. I declare that the scales have fallen. I declare that the old vision is dismantled and the new vision is installed. I declare that my full yes is spoken, sealed, and witnessed by heaven, and that every delay that was sustained by my partial obedience is now broken. I am not waiting to find out if this is real. I am walking forward because it is already real. I am not the person I was when this message started. Something shifted. Something opened. And I will not go back to managed blindness when I have just been given eyes that see what armies look like from heaven's perspective. I am chosen. I am calibrated. I am clear. And I move from this moment forward with the full weight of who I was created to be. If this message confirmed what your spirit already knew, share it with someone who has been sitting under their own juniper tree. Leave a comment below and tell me what broke open for you today. And subscribe, not for the numbers, but because the next message I release may be the one written for the war you are walking into tomorrow. Your eyes are open now. Do not waste what you just received.